The woman looked on in terror as her lover accidentally fell from his horse, and without a care that her husband was standing right beside her, she instantly burst into heart-wrenching cries. This unusual reaction immediately drew curious and suspicious glances from the surrounding spectators. On their way home, her husband's face darkened, but deep down, he still clung to an unrealistic hope, praying this was all just a ridiculous misunderstanding. But to his surprise, Anna confessed everything without the slightest hesitation.
I love him. I am his mistress.
Hearing this was like a thunderbolt to the husband. He couldn't believe that his usually gentle and elegant wife could commit such a disgraceful act. Yet, in order to protect his reputation, he swallowed his fury and simply forbade his wife from seeing her lover again, demanding she stay at home and play the role of a wealthy housewife. However, Anna was already completely swept away by love, and without a moment's doubt, she threw herself headfirst into that romantic abyss, unaware that this would mark the beginning of her tragic downfall. Anna was once a noblewoman who had just entered high society, with a husband named Karenin who held a prestigious position, enjoyed a successful career, and together they had a clever and lively son. But this seemingly glamorous marriage was, in truth, as lifeless as a stagnant pool. Her husband was immersed day and night in the scheming politics of the bureaucracy, treating his wife more like a beautiful ornament than a partner, providing her with material wealth but being painfully stingy with emotional affection. Yet deep inside Anna's heart, a burning desire for romantic love had never faded. Though her beautiful dreams had long been ignored and trampled by cold indifference, she was like a flower blooming alone in the dark, slowly withering in the vast silence. Then one day, a letter from Moscow shattered this silence. It turned out Anna's brother had been caught cheating by his wife and was now begging her to come and mediate. So, Anna was forced to board a train to Moscow, and as she stepped off, she brushed shoulders with a young officer. Both turned to glance back at each other at the same time, but Anna, eager to meet her brother, didn't linger, yet her stunning beauty instantly caught the officer's eye. And just then, the train suddenly jolted forward without warning, causing a railway worker to suffer a tragic accident, plunging the scene into chaos. The officer rushed forward without hesitation to calm the crowd, pulling out all the money he had on him and handing it to the worker's family as compensation. And this moment was witnessed by Anna, who hadn't yet walked far. Her heart quietly rippled with emotion, and a subtle affection arose for the kind-hearted officer, little knowing that her fate would soon mirror that of the unfortunate worker. After arriving, Anna did everything she could to persuade her sister-in-law to forgive her brother, for in that era, it was commonplace for men to keep mistresses, and as a wife, one was expected to accept this reality and not destroy a whole family out of momentary anger. Thanks to Anna's efforts, the sister-in-law finally gave in and reconciled with her brother. But when the young officer appeared again, the rationality in Anna's heart began to waver. The moment their eyes met, her heart skipped a beat and she instinctively looked away in a panic. Vronsky's burning gaze instantly ignited the long-repressed fire of love deep within her. From that moment on, Anna's heart could no longer find peace. Every time Vronsky appeared, she found herself unable to look away from him, and when he invited her to dance, it became the spark that ignited their passion. As the music swelled, they danced gracefully across the floor, their eyes locked in a gaze that filled the air with romance. In that instant, they seemed to forget the world around them, completely immersed in each other's presence. But this scene deeply wounded Anna's sister, for Vronsky was the man she secretly loved. Sensing her sister's feelings, Anna was overwhelmed with guilt and decisively boarded the train home, hoping to leave this tangled affair behind. Yet Vronsky's image lingered in her mind, impossible to erase. She tried to clear her head with the biting cold wind, but when she looked back, she saw a familiar figure slowly walking toward her. It was Vronsky.
Why are you leaving Moscow?
I have to be where you are.
Faced with Vronsky's heartfelt confession, Anna chose to reject him without hesitation. She pleaded with him to return to her sister and forget everything they had shared. With that, she turned and boarded the train, resolute in her decision. But to her surprise, Vronsky followed her all the way to her hometown. In the days that followed, he seemed to be everywhere, always finding ways to appear in Anna's view and draw her attention. At first, Anna still held onto a shred of reason and resistance, but as time went on, she grew used to Vronsky's presence, used to those wordless glances filled with unspoken desire. She became immersed in this forbidden and dangerous atmosphere of flirtation. Every time she stepped into a grand, brightly lit venue, her eyes would instinctively search the crowd for Vronsky, and when he wasn't there, even the dazzling fireworks seemed to lose their brilliance in her eyes. After enduring countless moments of disappointment, Vronsky finally appeared by her side again. He gently placed a coat over Anna's shoulders and quietly said his final goodbye.
So I'll go to Tashkent.
I don't want you to go.
In this constant emotional tug-of-war, Anna had fallen completely into the mire of love. Unable to free herself after countless inner struggles, she put on her finest clothes, veiled her face, and walked without hesitation to Vronsky's residence. No words were needed, their emotions and desires exploded in that moment. From then on, they began meeting frequently in secret, and each rendezvous was filled with sweetness and passion. But nothing stays hidden forever. Their affair was eventually discovered, and a neighbor subtly hinted to Karenin about Anna's improper behavior. Though uneasy, Karenin chose to trust his wife. Perhaps out of guilt for neglecting her, Karenin made the rare decision to accompany her to a horse race. But when Vronsky fell from his horse during the competition, Anna cried out in agony, completely disregarding the fact that her husband was standing right beside her. This shocking outburst exposed their affair to the world. Though Karenin was burning with rage, he chose to maintain his reputation and simply demanded that Anna behave properly and cut all ties with Vronsky. But by then, Anna was already pregnant. She could no longer bear living in the shadows and finally confessed to her husband that she was carrying Vronsky's child. Hoping this would set her free, Karenin was shaken by the news but said nothing. He would rather preserve the appearance of their marriage and tolerate his wife's relationship with Vronsky than let his own reputation suffer the slightest blemish. Faced with this outcome, Anna sank into despair and helplessness. That despair pushed her to act recklessly. She openly brought Vronsky home again and again, challenging her hollow marriage with fierce defiance. Eventually, Karenin could take no more. In a fit of rage, he shoved Anna to the ground, seized her letters to Vronsky, and planned to use them as leverage, threatening to strip her of the right to see her son and to ensure she could never remarry. But not long after Karenin left home, he unexpectedly received a letter from his wife. Anna, having endured the agony of childbirth, had now fallen ill with postpartum fever. With death approaching, she begged for his forgiveness and longed for him to return to see her one last time. A surge of complex emotions rushed through Karenin's heart. The old bond of marriage seemed to flicker back to life in that moment. After deep reflection, he finally returned home. When he saw his wife lying weak and barely breathing, the iron-hard resentment in his heart unexpectedly began to soften. At that moment, Anna called Vronsky to her side and asked them to shake hands and make peace. Karenin's heart was torn. On one side was his wounded pride. On the other, the lingering love and pity for his wife. After a painful struggle, he chose to forgive, but only on the condition that Vronsky leave.
I forgive you. I forgive Anna. I will remain with her and look after her forever.
Upon hearing this, Vronsky broke down in tears. It was unclear whether it was shame and guilt for what he had done, or heartbreak at the thought of losing Anna. After a period of rest, Anna miraculously recovered, but the first thing she demanded upon regaining her strength was to return to Vronsky's side. Karenin solemnly reminded Anna that choosing to be with Vronsky would mean losing her social status, her beloved son, and even her newborn daughter. But Anna's mind was made up. She was willing to bear eternal infamy if it meant being with the man she loved. Faced with her unwavering decision, Karenin gave up trying to stop her. And so, Anna abandoned everything and left with Vronsky for the south, far from the whispers and judgment of society, where they enjoyed a brief period of peace and happiness. However, whenever she passed by a shop filled with toys, an overwhelming longing for her son would surge through her. On his birthday, they returned to St. Petersburg, ignoring the servants' attempts to stop her. Anna rushed back home just to catch a glimpse of the boy she missed day and night. When the child saw his mother again, he wrapped his arms tightly around her neck as if trying with all his might to hold her there. In his eyes, no one could ever replace his mother. As Anna reveled in the joy of reuniting with her son, Karenin suddenly returned home. Seeing the touching scene between mother and child, his emotions were a tangled storm. He wished Anna would stay for their son's sake, but once again, Anna chose to leave. She would willingly give her life for her son, yet she could not betray her own heart and continue living in a loveless marriage. Little did she know, an even harsher reality awaited her. High society greeted their return not with acceptance, but with hostility and rejection. The nobles who once treated Anna with warmth now regarded her with scorn, labeling her as a woman of fallen morals. Anna was completely ostracized from the social world. She lost her former status and dignity. Old friends turned into strangers, even enemies. Though Vronsky still loved her deeply, he was born into the aristocracy, and social life was an essential part of his world. He began rejoining social circles, trying to reintegrate into the very society that had once cast them out. This change filled Anna with a fear and insecurity she had never known before. Her possessiveness over Vronsky grew stronger, terrified of falling once again into loneliness and despair. She became consumed with anxiety and anguish whenever he left to attend social events. She began to question him constantly. Their arguments grew more frequent and intense. The once poetic, passionate love they shared began to crack under the weight of reality. Finally, after yet another fierce quarrel, Vronsky stormed out of the house, leaving Anna standing alone in the cold, silent room. Her eyes were vacant and filled with despair, like a wounded creature lost in a dark forest. On the verge of mental collapse, Anna made a heartbreaking decision. She dressed in an elegant gown and returned to the train station, a place filled with memories, now destined to be her final resting place. The love that once drove her mad had been shattered beyond repair. The home that once offered warmth and safety was now broken beyond recognition. She was like a withered leaf, drifting alone through a howling world with nowhere to land, no place to find comfort. Then, a deafening roar filled her ears. It was the sound of destiny counting down. As the train thundered forward, Anna stepped off the platform with finality, making her ultimate farewell to this cruel world, leaving behind only endless sorrow and reflection. As Tolstoy once said, "All happy families are alike, but each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way." Everyone living in this world may find themselves at odds with fate. Those who appear to have everything, a successful career, a perfect family, often harbor private struggles and pain that no one else can see. Love always begins sweetly and passionately, but as time goes on, daily routines slowly erode that sense of romance. What once sparked joy in a single smile may now lead to arguments over who washes the dishes. We lose ourselves in love, forgetting the innocence and determination we once held. We begin to doubt if the person beside us is still the one we loved, and question whether we made the right choice at all. Perhaps we all need to slow down and take a moment to truly look at our love and our family, to listen to our partner's heart, to feel the warmth of those closest to us, to rediscover the small joys forgotten in the rush of life. Because true happiness doesn't come from outside validation or piles of material wealth. It comes from the deep satisfaction of loving and being loved, from the quiet, tender moments shared with the people who stand beside us through it all. I'm a movie enthusiast. Thanks for watching. See you next time.